this time is okay. Okay, just need to speak in the microphone. Please.
Hello. Hello, everyone. I think we are going to start because oh, someone is coming. Thank you, everyone, for being here. I just want to introduce myself and quickly StartupToken and what we're doing. Sorry, we're going to speak in English. Everybody understand English? Yes? Okay, no choice anyway. So yeah, I'm just going to give a quick intro, and then Sebastian, who works at StartupToken as well, will introduce what we're doing exactly. I just wanted to say thank you for being here. Although there is like a storm outside, I'm a bit disappointed to see that French people cannot handle the snow. It's not a big deal, but I arrived 2 days ago from China, and I still haven't got my luggage. So this is how dramatic is snow here. So just thank you for being here. We will have 4 projects introducing their idea and how they're gonna disrupt their industry and hopefully change the world. Yeah, thank you for being so courageous to overcome the snow and being here. I'll give it to Sebastian, who's going to give you some introduction about that. Thank you.
All right. Thank you and welcome. So I'm Sebastian Ruxa, and I represent StartupToken in France. We're trying to build a syndicated network of accelerator. So it's actually trying to build a community. The blockchain ecosystem is made out of different kind of characters, different kinds of actors, and so we would like to welcome them in our syndicated network of accelerator. We would like to build this community and bring together people who just want to sponsor innovation, the people who really like the tech and would like to develop, and the applicants. So if you go on our website, you can actually apply for our next hackathon. Today we are really proud to announce that we are launching a hackathon next month, and it will be the launch of our French accelerator. We're gonna give out. We're gonna give out a price of 10 Bitcoin of services to startups that we will accelerate. So there will be a selection process, and you can find all the information on our website, so startuptoken.com/hackathon. So we work with plenty of partners, and our network is based in different cities around the globe. And in Paris, we particularly specialize in the French startups, and so we accelerated Dether, and in the future we hope to accelerate much more French startup. So right now we are opening the accelerator in France, but we already have a structure in Gibraltar, and the structure is opening in the same time almost. We are in the starting blocks in Korea, China, and Japan. So we are really proud to launch this in France too, and we really hope the French community will be happy to join us and participate. So simply, our accelerators will receive candidatures, and we're going to do selection processes, and all the community can access the information, can access can take part in our accelerators. If you have an idea, a project, just come see us and talk with us. We can build things together. I think in France, what's really important is to move things a bit. We are really settled, and there is not a lot of action, and so we would like to centralize this action, or at least give people the chance to launch their project. So I'm not going to be much longer. Just going to give you the information, so you can just join us on Telegram. We give lots of information about the current state of the market and also what's happening right now in the crypto world. And you will be able to follow the launch of all our ICOs, and all the projects can actually can use our channels to distribute their information. Also on Twitter. And you can go on the website on the hackathon page to join and register for the next hackathon in March. So thank you very much. Do you have a quick question, maybe? 1-2 minutes, we're going to do 2 questions. Anyone? All right. It's perfect. When there's no question, that means I said everything. So next.
Okay. So the first startup to introduce their project will be a friend from RSK. Diego. There's also a Diego on the team. I didn't just make up this name. So Diego will introduce us. RSK up right here. Okay. And here's the clicker. Yes. And this
Okay. Okay. Well, first of all, thank you very much for being here. We're very happy. This is the last presentation of a very exhausting roadshow that we did the last 3 weeks all across Europe. This is a very special moment for us because we launched the RSK mainnet 3 weeks ago, and now we're around the world presenting and letting every community know that now we can execute smart contracts secured by the Bitcoin network. How many of you already know what RSK does? Just okay. And how many of you are developers? Okay. So what I'm going to do here is share with you a little bit of the background of the team, so all of you that are not familiar with RSK know who we are. The reasons why we created RSK, a little bit of what RSK does for those who are not familiar, and then some of the use cases are already running on RSK. The RSK team is been around in the ecosystem for the last 5 years. So Sergio, our chief scientist, Sergio Lerner, you might know him, got involved with Bitcoin in 2011. And the main reason that why he got involved is because he thought that Bitcoin was going to fail. So this is very concentrated with Satoshi. So he started analyzing how many Bitcoin Satoshi mined. And he saw a pattern of the mining computer that Satoshi was using, and this is how he came up with the estimation that Satoshi mined around 1 million Bitcoin. So if you heard that number, that analysis was done by Sergio. The actual number, I think, is 980,000. Then Sergio thought that the code was very bad. So he started analyzing the code. And as a consequence, he found 6 of the 10 most important vulnerabilities of the Bitcoin code. And then he was hired by the US Bitcoin Foundation to become a Bitcoin core auditor, security auditor. Then he also, in 2013, developed the first Turing-complete smart contract platform as a university project, but mainly focused on online poker. So he didn't see the possibility that smart contracts could have to transform our society and develop a more fair financial system, but still he developed the first Turing-complete platform. And this is the reason why when Vitalik developed Ethereum, asked Sergio to audit the code. So Sergio was one of the 3 security audits of the Ethereum network, along with Zuko and Andrew Miller. So this is Sergio, our chief scientist. He knows Ethereum Bitcoin inside out and has been in the space for a very long time. Also Diego, as our co-founder and CEO, he created the first NGO in the Latin American region. So he created the Argentine Bitcoin NGO and then the Latin American Bitcoin NGO. He helped create the Argentine community, the first Bitcoin center that ever existed in the region. It was in Buenos Aires. And now we've been running together La BitConf, along with other group of volunteers, which is the longest running Bitcoin and blockchain conference in Latin America. It's been 5 editions already, in Argentina, Brazil, Mexico, Colombia, and we're doing it in Chile this year. And the main purpose of everything that we do on the non-for-profit side is to help the local communities to develop new projects, to fund the startups, to inspire new entrepreneurs to get involved. So this is what we've been doing way before creating RSK. Then we got together with the other co-founders, Adrian and Ruben, and this is how RSK was born. What I would like to do today is to also give you a perspective on why Bitcoin and blockchain are so important in Latin America and in the emerging markets. Because something that we've seen in these last 3 weeks is sometime in Europe you have a very unique perspective on how this can affect our financial system and our economy. But it's also very interesting to see how this whole technological and social revolution is seen from the emerging markets. Because in our view, most of the solutions and the most important changes that this technology will bring to our society is going to happen in the emerging markets, with blockchain and Bitcoin are really needed. Okay, so if you think about it, everything we've seen so far in the internet could be described as a specific type of internet that we call the Internet of Information, or the Internet of Knowledge. I mean, it completely transformed our lives, right? We have the whole history of human knowledge in our pocket. This is crazy, right? It allowed the Arab Spring. It empowered our society and allowed instant democratic exchange of information all across the globe. But even when we're doing home banking, we're not sending value through the internet. We're telling our bank, please reduce my account and credit it in Alice's account, or reduce the number of shares that I have in my account and credit on someone else's. We could be telling this to the bank face-to-face, over the phone, or through the internet. It's just information that we're telling them to do, but we're not actually sending the real value. If I take a picture of a €100 note and send it to you, say, okay, this is the debt I have to you, like it's settled, you won't give that picture any value, because there is one thing that the Internet of Information was not able to solve, which is that digital files are very easy to copy, right? This is the single most important thing, in my opinion, the blockchain technology solved. With blockchain technology, it's the first time ever that we can create digital files that cannot be spent twice. And we spend a lot of time talking to governments, to banks, to central banks, explaining them that this is way more than just a cryptocurrency or even a technology. This is a new era of the internet that we call the Internet of Value, that will allow us to exchange any kind of value instantly, democratically, and almost for free from any part of the world to the other. And most importantly, we expect this new technology, this new era of the internet, to bring the same benefits that the Internet of Knowledge or Information brought to our society, but now applied to the free exchange of value. And when we say value, we mean fiat cryptocurrencies, we mean shares, crowdfunding, loyalty points, miles, and votes. No? This technology will definitely transform the way we organize our societies. So it's a very exciting moment in time, and we're trying to explain the regulators and the authorities and the entrepreneurs that are trying to get involved with blockchain technology that this is way larger than we expect, that we can see if you read what Bitcoin is on the newspapers. Probably the Internet of Value will be 100 or 1,000 times larger than everything we've seen in the Internet of Knowledge combined. It will transform completely the societies and will be disrupting every single industry that we work on in the same way that the internet affected all our economy. So this is not happening in any particular moment in time. It's a very specific moment when we have the birth of the Internet of Value. And my background is in economics, okay? So I'm not a developer, I cannot program, and I love to share this every time I do a presentation, because when I was at university, no one explained this to me. No one told me that the currency, the strongest currency that we have today in the world, has lost 98% of its value in the last 100 years. In Latin America, it's crazy, but you know, every time a family can save $100, $200, we just, you know, get the bills under the mattress. We keep it, it's like gold for us. But if you see, over the last 100 years, it lost 94% of its value. And this chart ends in 2009. If you continue until today, it lost 98% of its value. The peak here is in 1933, when Roosevelt went house by house in the US and took their gold savings. Okay? So if you think about it, it's pretty weird that 70% of total amount of money in the world is based in US dollars. That is the most used currency for long-term store of value. I had this conversation with the central bank in Argentina. I said, like, what percentage of our reserves are denominated in US dollars? 80%. And what do you guys think about this? It's like, well, I don't know. We never discussed this. And this is not the worst part, because as I said before, this chart ends in 2009. Look what happened afterwards. The green area is the amount of dollars in circulation, right? And the yellow line is the price of gold. It was impossible to put the price of Bitcoin in this chart because the scale wouldn't work. So this, if you continue this line 50 years before, it was the same slope, right? And you would assume that a central bank would print money based on the growth of the economic, right? On the economy to prevent inflation. Well, this is a unique experiment in modern monetary policy that is happening right now. So Bitcoin was created here. So it's a very interesting moment in time when there's they're happening all kind of never proven before monetary policies at the same time that the internet is providing us with an alternative for long-term store of value. What I'd like to think here and to share with you this thought, and as I said yesterday, I promise I use this slide during the whole tour, not now here because I'm in France. I've been using this for a long time. If you think about it, in the same way that 150 years ago, after the French Revolution, the Western world separated the roles of government and religion, which was something completely crazy and impossible to believe that was capable to happen. Maybe we are starting a process that might take 5 years, 2 years, 20 years, or 50, where the role of government and money will get separated. I mean, it makes sense, it's obvious. If you see the chart that we just seen, governments, especially the Federal Reserve, have not been doing a good job at providing us a stable long-term store of value. If you want to leave value to 5 generations in the future in your family, you'll probably use something as primitive as gold. Imagine if we are sitting on the Tesla, right, outside Earth, or in a UFO up there, and we look at human society from the outside. So it's pretty interesting because these guys and girls have decoded the DNA, have sent a probe to Pluto, and now they are starting to build a civilization in Mars. However, when they want to store value over time, they dig underground, they take some yellow bricks, they put them in a square, and save them under the ground again. Right? This is what we've been doing for the last 5,000 years. So maybe now the internet is providing us an alternative that has only 9 years of track record, so it has a lot to prove yet, that could be an alternative as long-term store of value, where we start believing more in cryptography and mathematics than central banks and politicians. Now, that was very clear in Latin America, especially when you are living in a country such as Argentina with capital controls for almost 10 years, or in Venezuela with 30% inflation a month. It's very clear why Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies are extremely interesting and useful as long-term store of value. Now, we've been working and thinking for the last 3 years how we can solve the poverty problems in Latin America. We have 200 million poor people outside the financial system. It's 65% of the total population, which is almost the same percentage in the rest of the world, right? So 50% of human population are really desperate to start interacting with us through the financial system, receiving microloans, being able to save, doing micro e-commerce, micro remittances, but they've been completely outside the system so far with the traditional system. So we started thinking how we can develop through smart contract solutions for them. But then we faced this problem that we had to choose. We had the most secure store of value and blockchain in the planet, and the most flexible and exciting programmable blockchain called Ethereum that was born in 2015. And we didn't want to choose because we were in conversations with the Brazilian Development Bank to create 200 million euro microloan program to end poverty in the northern part of Brazil. We were talking with central banks and commercial banks to develop financial inclusion solutions. So we needed both. We needed programmability and security. And this is how RSK was born. So what we're trying to do with RSK is combining the store of value and the security of the Bitcoin network with the business rules and programmability of smart contracts of the Ethereum network. And we believe that the combination of these two features, the security of the network and the programmability of smart contracts, could play a key role in the construction of the Internet of Value. So these are the 5 pillars on which the RSK technology is built. I'll try to make it technical enough for the developers in the room, but also easy to understand for those who are not developers. The first pillar is that the RSK virtual machine is fully compatible with that of Ethereum. So if you know how to program smart contracts in Solidity or Web3, it's extremely easy to port your solution from one to the other. And this was extremely important for us because we are big fans of the smart contract community, and we like many of the solutions that are being built. And we wanted to offer to that community an alternative to use Bitcoin security to run those smart contracts. So this is the first pillar. It's fully compatible with Solidity Web3 and everything that you guys might be playing around with. Also, we decided not to create a new tradable coin. So as you know, in Ethereum, you pay the execution of those smart contracts with Ether. Well, in RSK, we use Bitcoin. Actually, we use something called Smart Bitcoin. And probably you're familiar with the concept of a sidechain or a drive chain that I'm going to explain in 2 minutes. Both sidechains and drive chains are specific cases of something called two-way peg. And basically, a two-way peg allows you to borrow a token from one primary blockchain, use it on a secondary blockchain, and then send it back to the primary blockchain. Okay? The original concept of sidechain was developed by Blockstream, and the problem that it had is it was very complex. It required a hard fork on the Bitcoin blockchain and 5 opcodes to be modified. So as you might know, this is impossible to get done today in the current ecosystem. Then Paul Stork designed a simplified version called the drive chain, which only required 1 soft fork, meaning that the miners can implement it if they want, and those miners that don't want to implement it, that's fine, and the network continues working, and only requires 1 opcode to be modified. So the RSK bridge is built on a drive chain. The way it works is the following. You want to execute smart contracts on RSK, the first thing you got to do is send a Bitcoin or a millibit or a Satoshi to a locking account on the Bitcoin blockchain. Then, with the same private key that you were hosting that Bitcoin, you receive a smart Bitcoin or smart Satoshi on the RSK blockchain. The RSK blockchain has blocks every 14 seconds, can process up to 400 transactions per second, is Turing complete. You can program smart contracts and use those smart Bitcoins to pay for the execution of those smart contracts. Whenever the user or the miner wants to cash out those smart Bitcoins, they send them back to the peg and they release the Bitcoins that were locked in the first place. So this is how the two-way peg works. We presented the BIP, the Bitcoin Improvement Proposal, to Bitcoin Core a year ago, so they can implement the drive chain. They are in the process of analyzing the technology and creating the soft fork for the miners to implement. The miners are fully on board. They all want to implement this. In the meantime, we're doing this with a federation of exchanges. So the way it works is at the beginning, still there won't be too many Bitcoins in the peg. The release of the funds will be done through a multi-sig. with 25 different exchanges distributed around the world, with billions of euros under management each, only managing one multi-sig on the process. And as soon as we have the drive chain implemented by Bitcoin Core, there's going to be a combination of keys from the federation and keys from the miners. And the way the drive chain works is every time a Bitcoin miner mines a new block, they have an opcode where they can say yes or no, 1 or a 0. If they say 1, means release the funds. Say 0 is do not release the funds. So the drive chain is programmed in such a way that it says after 50 confirmations from the proof of work, you release the funds. If 100% of the miners implemented the soft fork, within 50 blocks you have 50 signatures. If only 50% of the miners implemented the soft fork, you need to wait for 100 blocks to get 50 confirmations. Okay, so this is how the bridge works, and it's very interesting because RSK is going to be one of the first sidechains, productive sidechains that ever existed. Now, the third pillar is also extremely important because we allow ASIC Bitcoin miners to merge mine RSK. So this is the first time that the Bitcoin miners with the same hardware and the same electricity consumption that they were spending only to secure Bitcoin can now secure any smart contract or token that we program on RSK. And this is, do you remember when we had, you know, we started receiving internet connection through the copper cable on the wall back in the 90s? That was infrastructure that was already deployed that we started using for something more interesting than just speaking over the phone. Well, this is the same thing that we're doing with the merge mining. There's a huge amount of hardware dedicated to secure Bitcoin and a huge energy consumption. And now we're using that, taking advantage of that infrastructure to also secure smart contracts and tokens. And for those developers here, I'm going to explain you how this works because it's very interesting. It's been done in a very simple and neat way. You know how Bitcoin pools work, right? It's miners, instead of mining one block every 10,000 years, they decide to join a mining pool and receive a few millibits per hour, right? So how does the mining pool know how to distribute the shares when they find as a pool a positive block in Bitcoin? Well, the way it works is the following. They have a very high difficulty level, which is the Bitcoin difficulty level, but they are asked every single miner every 30 seconds to provide answers valid for a very low difficulty level. And this is called proof of mining. This information is not used for anything else apart from knowing how much hashing power each miner has. So the pool knows how to distribute the shares as long as they find a new positive block. Well, the RSK difficulty is right in the middle because we have blocks every 14 seconds. So our difficulty is above the proof of mining. So basically what is we use all these pools are receiving anyways, and we test it on RSK blocks. And we find multiple RSK positive answers. And this is how the mining pools and the miners use the same electricity with zero cost and zero loss in efficiency on the Bitcoin miner, because it's something that we're providing to the mining pool anyways. We have support from 80% of the total Bitcoin hashing power. Not because we are nice, it's because we just created a completely new revenue stream for them. We know how Bitcoin works. It works based on economic incentives, and we made sure that the Bitcoin miners get 80% of the total fuel that is generated in RSK. Something interesting is that with the remaining 20%, part goes to the RSK development in the future, but also we decided to share part of those fees with the full nodes. This is something that would have been awesome that Satoshi would have done, no? Full nodes play a key role in the ecosystem. They contribute to the decentralization and the security of the network, but they are run only for people that want to contribute to the network. How many of you run a Bitcoin full node? One. So, thank you very much. We should all be running full nodes. It would add a lot of value and decentralization to the network. But it's very difficult to ask someone to have a computer running all the time with a hard drive just for the sake of helping the community. So we said, okay, let's try to give economic incentive to those people running full nodes for the network. So we're going to share part of the fees generated by the smart contract execution with the RSK full nodes, but also with the Bitcoin full nodes. So this is interesting because it's the first time that a second layer solution will be contributing to the decentralization of the first layer, the Bitcoin network. The fourth pillar, as I said before, is the global federation. These are exchanges, one of the most, some of the most relevant and important exchanges around the world. They've been selected because they know how to handle extremely high security environments, and they will be providing multiple services to the RSK users. The first one, as I said before, is the two-way peg. Until the drive chain is implemented, they're going to be securing this multi-sig to release the Bitcoins that are locked in the two-way peg. Also, they're going to be providing external security checkpoints. So every time a miner mines a block, they're going to be running a full node, and together, the 25 of them, in a decentralized way, saying, okay, this block is correct. So if you are BNP, or if you are the BNDES, or if you are a central bank or a country running a decentralized transparent election, and you feel that the proof of work is not secure enough, well, you can add this external checkpoint that's going to be confirming that, hello guys, welcome. This is the Tykn team. It's one of my favorite projects. They'll present in a second. So the federation will also be providing these external security checkpoints. It's like an external auditor saying this block is correct. Also, the federation will be providing oracling services that I'm going to mention in a second. But last, but definitely not least, and the most important feature of the whole pillars of RSK is the community. RSK is just infrastructure. What we're trying to do here is provide to the ecosystem the most secure smart contract execution platform at the lowest possible cost. And we have, I mean, probably we're going to be able to do this because we are subsidized by Bitcoin. So our miners and this security is not counting on the fees from smart contracts. So we are just using existing infrastructure so we can provide the highest security levels at the lowest execution cost. I think right now the minimum transaction cost is 5 cents of a dollar in RSK. So multiple orders of magnitude less than Ethereum. So this is what we've done so far. We launched the mainnet, as I said before, 3 weeks ago. It's available for all of you who want to port your solutions and test the RSK technology. And now we're going to start working on these additional services that we call the Internet of Value services layer. And the main reason we're doing this is because we want to make sure that these extremely complex blockchain solutions that can reach billions of users can be developed. And all these services are available on Ethereum or Corda or other platforms, and we need to make sure that at least there is one solution available on RSK. So we're going to develop decentralized storage, similar to Filecoin. It's going to be especially interesting for solutions for decentralized ID, such as Tykn, because when you want to run your own ID, you want to make sure you can save it on an encrypted, anonymous data storage, not in Amazon Web Services and not in your own computer. So this is extremely important for decentralized ID. And the interesting thing is the first providers of this are going to be the RSK full nodes. So if you're running a full node, you're going to get rewarded by storing the blockchain and also by providing centralized storage if you want to provide this service. The second service that we're going to be working on is the Lumino network. The Lumino network is the off-chain payment channel solution on top of RSK. It's similar to Raiden on Ethereum, but the difference is that Raiden uses a native token that they had to develop to do an ICO, and in our case, Lumino won't use a token, so you're going to be paying the services exactly with the same token that you're opening on the payment channel. This is something that Vitalik criticized on the Raiden architecture. And also, if you compare it with Lightning, well, Lightning is very interesting, and we're super happy to have Lightning on Bitcoin, but Lightning has some limitations because it works on top of a UTXO blockchain, while RSK is based on accounts. So it's easier to scale and way more simple. And also on Lightning, you can only send Bitcoin. You can only open payment channels for Bitcoin, while on Lumino, you can open payment channel for every single token that you are sending. Yeah, well, we can discuss this, the Bitcoin part. Also, Sergio has developed something very interesting, which is that right now in payment channels technology, you can only open a one-to-one payment channel. So if you're a bank person in Nepal and you want to interact with all of you, that person should open multiple payment channels with multiple collaterals in every single payment channel. Now, Sergio's working on a version of payment channels where you can have a one-to-many and many-to-one. So that lady in Nepal or in Argentina will be able to open one payment channel against a master node or against a hub, have one collateral, and through that master hub interact with all of you. Some people might say that this is might promote centralization, and maybe that person prefers to run a centralized hub and have only one collateral and not multiple collaterals and not be able to interact with the rest of. So it's going to be an option. It's not going to be the only way to do it, but it's a very good option, especially if you don't have enough funds to have multiple payment channels open. Directory is similar to ENS. It's going to be very important also for illiterate people that cannot deal with public keys. If you don't know how to read, imagine how easy it is to get confused with a public key. Well, with IOV, with the directory solution, you're going to be able to have like a web domain, Gabriel.iov, so it's very easy for you to check that you're sending funds or receiving the right address. Certified communication channels, similar to Whisper, is very important for peer-to-peer microloans. And data feeds or oracling services are very interesting and very important because when you want to run a complex smart contract solution, you need external information to be fed to your smart contract. But if that information is compromised, your whole solution is compromised. So it's very important to be able, for some specific cases, to have very secure data feeds. Well, these data feeds will going to be provided by the federation. So you're going to be able to request information, whether euro price, share price, whatever you need in order to even date and time, to feed your smart contract in a very secure and decentralized way. These are some of the use cases that are already working on RSK. Just to incentivize your creativity in case you're thinking, how can I get involved in smart contracts and the internet value in general? These are some of the use cases. Corruption is a big problem in Latin America and many parts of the world. And the easiest way that politicians find to run a corrupt environment is on public tenders. So this is a very cheap and simple solution on which you can use blockchain technology to provide transparency in public tenders. Basically, you force all the proposals in PDF to get hashed and to be recorded on the blockchain on the day when the offers are meant to be sent. And a week later, when the envelopes are open, the winning bet needs to be hashed again, and this hash needs to match the one that was presented a week ago. If they change one comma, you know that something funny went on and someone changed the proposal. And this can be run for a couple of euros per hash. So this is a very simple way, and it's something that we talked with governments and with companies to make sure they get involved with blockchain transparency very quickly. This is another use case. Tokenit is meant to make very simple and easy to tokenize assets. With 3 clicks, you can join a token, create your own token, invite your friends, and hold a wallet with all these loyalty programs. They're specially meant for small shops. So any cafeteria or any pharmacy in the world can have their own loyalty program. We have a friend that is doing a Matri Miles. So he opened a loyalty point with his wife. Every time he goes out with the friends for a few drinks, he needs to put some tokens in the wallet, and whenever the girl wants to use, the wife wants to use these tokens, she can exchange them for shopping, credit card credits or whatever. The most interesting thing here is that we can play around with blockchain technology without knowing that we are using it. No? This can also be used for kids at school to vote the best mate. So in 10 years, when they are forced to go to an election and put a paper in an envelope, they'll say, why? I've been voting my friends with blockchain transparency for 10 years. And we need to make it very simple. I am not a developer. I touch a button and I talk over the phone. I don't know what's going on underneath. Well, we need to be very smart to develop blockchain solutions that are so simple that people do not even know that they are using blockchain. This same engine, on a white label version, Coibanks has developed for Davivienda. It's the second largest bank in Colombia. They are mainly focused on financial inclusion. So in Colombia, it's a huge problem of poverty and people that cannot access to financial services. But we developed for them a solution in stages. So stage 1 has no commercial risk and no commercial risk, no regulatory risk, just a loyalty program for their own employees. They've been playing around with this, buying lunch at the local cafeteria for the last 6 months. Now we're moving to the second stage where they open this to the 3 million customers that they have. So has a new interface. Every time a customer swipes a credit card, they get loyalty points. And the idea is that after testing this with 3 million customers for a couple of months, we're going to move to the third stage where we add a token that it says Davivienda pesos instead of Davivienda points. And you add a button that says request a loan, request a deposit. And suddenly you have a 24/7 financial inclusion wallet, which is 95% automated without human intervention, which is what is needed to offer them extremely low-cost financial services. Same thing is been done with Tarjeta Naranja. It's the second largest the most important credit card company in Argentina. Exactly the same exercise. The only difference is that on stage 1, they decided to do a Salesforce incentive program. So there were 160 branches. They were already doing this program, and now we tokenized it, and they started getting points every time they were reaching these objectives. And at the end, every 2 weeks, they were getting new points. And at the end of the quarter, the 10 most profitable branches were able to exchange those points for trips and rewards. Now we're moving into the second stage, opening to the, I think it's almost 4 million customers. And then the same process with microlending, once they have the expertise. One of the most important things when dealing with banks and central banks is to let them understand how they will replace the 8 firewalls that they currently have in the current system by a blockchain technology. And has a lot of complexities, how you manage the private keys, how you store them, how you modify, who can change the smart contract, how the interfaces between the legacy system and the new blockchain system works. So this is why they all really appreciated this solution on stages where they can get comfortable with the solution and then move forward to the next one. These are some other use cases that we are discussing: microinsurance, loyalty with telematics. You know, it's like all these insurance companies are getting information from their customers. So if you are a good driver, if you don't brake, if you don't speed up, if you don't drive on rush hour, the probability of you crashing are reduced significantly. So at the end of the day, you receive points to change the filter. Or the same thing if you go for a run. Imagine you come back home and you receive a message from your health insurance company. It says, hey, Gabriel, you've been healthy today. Here you have some points to go to the spa. We're also talking with governments about the possibility of tokenizing public debt. So in the case of Davivienda, imagine if these unbanked people will be able also to save a few euros buying public debt with a positive interest rate. This is one of the things that surprised us the most when we did the pilot in Shantytown in Argentina. We said, okay, guys, you need microlending, right? And they said, yes, we need microlending, but most of all, we need somewhere to save. We don't have doors. So we are forced to be poor all our lives because we cannot save. We don't have a secure place where we can put our savings. And we were completely surprised by that answer. So it's very important also to provide encrypted solutions and blockchain solutions for savings. And also social assistance is a huge bucket of corruption in Latin America. Many families need help to send the kids to school or to buy food. If we can add blockchain transparency to those use cases, it would be extremely important. These are 4 non-for-profit projects that we are running. These are completely blockchain agnostic. So,
and also
they
social
do not
assistance
need to be
is
related
a
to RSK.
huge
It's something
bucket
that
of
we do
corruption in Latin America.
because we believe in the potential
families
of
need help.
blockchain technology to transform our
If we
society
can
in
add
positive ways.
blockchain transparency to those
Blockchain
use
for
cases,
Humanity,
would be
it's
extremely
a
important.
project where we decided that there are some use cases that can really make a change, a positive change in our society, and we wanted to do as much as we can to help them. Blockchain for Humanity is focused in trying to find all around the world the best use cases for decentralized ID, for micro insurance, micro loans, transparent democracies, transparent donations and government. Once we identify these projects, we try to help them as much as we can through our network, trying to make sure they receive enough funding for a proof of concept. We're working with StartupToken very closely on this initiative, and we're going to be able to incubate these companies in all the different locations that StartupToken is setting up around the world. LabitConf is the conference that I told you before. We've been running this for 5 years, and you're going to see a short video of what LabitConf is. But you know, LabitConf, it's a conference where you don't barely see any ICO pitches. It's mostly about community and innovation, different technologies, and especially trying to help the local communities in Latin America to grow. But it felt like it was not enough doing it once a year. So we came up with this idea of La Bitcoineta. Camioneta is minivan, and Bitcoineta is like a Bitcoin or crypto minivan that will go from small village to small village all across Latin America, just reaching the families and entrepreneurs that usually do not get access to blockchain technology, explaining them how they can get self-employed, how they can have micro savings on cryptocurrencies, how they can become developers, get involved. In Russia, they call it the crypto Che Guevara, and now we're talking with Yasin to see if we can replicate this in Africa. Also, it would be awesome. We have some friends interested in doing this in the ex-USSR, and hopefully in India as well. And also, we said, well, the biggest challenge that we have as an industry is the lack of developers. So what can we do from RSK to help the community to learn how to program and get involved? So we put together this course, RSK Educate, which is a full blockchain stack course, not only RSK, it's Bitcoin, Ethereum, RSK, dApps, everything. It's divided into 2 courses, one for decision makers, so people with commercial background, and another one for developers. And we give this away for free to universities. So if any of you are students of this university and you think someone could be interested in creating a blockchain course here, just reach us out. We're here to help and provide the content for free. This is a message that I would like to leave before we finish the presentation. We as entrepreneurs have been chasing the unicorn, right? We've been taught that we need to pursue and become billionaires and create companies with a lot of value. And I think we should change that mindset and take advantage of the opportunities that blockchain technology brings us and start appreciating those companies and entrepreneurs that spend their time trying to change the lives of billions of users. There is something quite unique that is going to happen in the next 2 years. So around 1 billion people that are currently outside the system will have internet connection through their mobiles for the first time. So this is 1 billion users desperate for consumer credit, desperate for micro remittances and micro e-commerce to buy something on the street. So maybe, and most probably, in the same way that 10 years ago the banks didn't know how to deal with SMEs, with small and medium companies, and today they're the most profitable segment of every single bank, probably in 10 years, microfinance will be the most profitable segment in the financial industry. So what I share with these banks, entrepreneurs, fintechs, and everybody is that there's a chance that if we focus in trying to change the world and trying to make our society a better place, probably our fintechs and our companies will end up being one of the most profitable ones, because there's going to be a lot of a huge reduction on financial services fees on the other segments of the population. Coca-Cola won't go to a bank anymore. We'll issue debt on the blockchain. We won't be willing to pay for financial services. How much do we pay to listen to music? 8 euros a month. How much do we pay to watch movies on streaming? Same thing. well, we will be willing to pay that amount to do all financial services that we operate. Most interesting segment will be probably in the microfinance. So we'd like to encourage newcomers and entrepreneurs to focus their business model on these kind of solutions. Also because they're extremely rewarding in life. So how you can get involved? This is some of the links. The GitHub is where you can access the RSK code. All of this is in the rsk.co website. If you have any technical questions, you can access our Dether channel and talk directly to the core development team. For the next 3 months, we're going to have a whitelisting on the fuel. So if you want to run a solution on the RSK mainnet, you need to send us an email and we will send you smart Bitcoins because we didn't want anybody to run an ICO before all the miners are on board. If you want to get involved in education, just go to educate.rsk.co. Just send me an email to me or to Ale. We set up a bounty program for developers to help us find bugs in the code and get involved with the project. So this is the link. And also we said that this is, if we want to reach 1 billion users, then we need to share best practices. If someone develops an interesting use case in Brazil, well, maybe we want to develop it again here, or maybe we just want to license and get in touch with that team in Brazil. Or if someone or some of you develops an interesting use case here in France, maybe you want to get in touch with someone in Paraguay or Colombia or India to make sure we do not reinvent the wheel every time. And for that reason, we created the Ambassador Program, which is a network of RSK partners that are going to be working on solutions, so you guys can get in touch and create commercial bonds. Ale here, can you Ale stand up? So this is Ale. He's part of the RSK team. He's going to be based in Spain to be closer to the European community. And if you want to get in touch or be part of this network, just make sure you get Ale's card today. So thank you very much for letting us share this with you. We're very excited and we're really looking forward to get your solutions on RSK as soon as possible. Thank you very much. And before we finish, I would like to show you a quick video of La BitConf. How do you do that? This is Nick Savo. Does this one work? Peter Todd. We had a very special guest. It was a surprise. You'll see him now. So it's 2 days of conferences, but then we do something called La BitConf Experience, where we invite all the speakers, and this is the Salt Church in Bogota. La BitConf is well known for having the best karaoke in the crypto space, as you see. This year, in December, we'll be in Chile, so you're all welcome to come. This is Gonzalo from Signatura. We did a coffee tasting. This is Rodolfo, one of the founders of the Latin American NGO. Elena from Tresor. Dieguito, RSK CEO and co-founder. Joaquin from Consensus. This is Griff from Givet. Juan Llanos from Consensus. And now you'll see the secret speaker, Mr. Bitcoin. Rosine from Brazil. And the secret speaker. We brought Satoshi to the conference. It was so popular, we had to form a line. 200 people wanted to take a picture with ODEM. Here's Brock. She works in the Colombian Central Bank. And this is Dorian. Good. And this is Blockchain for Humanity. We announced the creation of the program there in Colombia. So this is La BitConf. You're all welcome if you want to join. If you cannot make it, all the content is available online. So we believe that knowledge is a human right. So everything that it's all the presentations that happen in La BitConf are available online on live streaming. Or if you go to labitconf.com now, you can see all these presentations from Nick Sabo and so on.
Okay, thank you. Again.
Thank you very much.
Detailed presentation. Quick questions maybe for Gary. Right now, Daniel, of course.
Thank you. So first, you said in the beginning that a long time ago, in France at least, there was a separation between states generally and religion.
Yeah.
But this is a local phenomenon, meaning not many countries have done that. For instance, tomorrow you will be in a state where state and religion is not separated. Watch out. So separating money from states may be quite lengthy and difficult. Maybe you have some points to make on this, why you think it may happen in less than 100 years or without a war. This is my first question. Second question, small technical thing that I did not understand about Lumino network. You said that Bitcoin is based on UTXO, of course, but you are in the Lumino network based on
Accounts.
Accounts? I
Yeah.
don't understand that.
This is okay. So I'll start by the second one first. So RSK, it's a fork from Ethereum J. So RSK has the RSK blockchain has the same structure as the Ethereum one, which is not UTXOs, it's accounts. Okay, so Lumino is similar to Raiden. It's built on top of an accounts blockchain, and that makes it more simple and efficient. If you want to know why, we should go search and we can do a follow-up on that. So this on the second one. On the first one, I definitely believe that the US is going to have a lot of trouble accepting this new paradigm. They are the blockbuster of the financial system. So for them, they have a lot to lose, right? Every time we save with dollars under our mattresses, we are providing free funding, no? To the Federal Reserve, and that might change. And I don't know whether the world is ready for that change or not, and how we're going to be able to absorb it. The other thing that I can tell you is that what we are seeing in the industry is, regulatory arbitrage. So you saw what happened with the bid license. The regulators in New York received a lot of pressure from the incumbents, from the exchanges and the global banks. And if you wanted to start a Bitcoin or blockchain project, you had to put $5 million in a lawyer's bureau before you start. So what happened? All the startups from New York left. They went to California or they went to London. So it's very interesting how different countries will start, competing to attract knowledge and startups. Gibraltar is a great example. They understood how blockchain can be dealt and the amount of value that this new revolution might bring, and they said, okay, we want to be the first one. So if a country doesn't allow this revolution to happen in their own territory, then the entrepreneurs will just move somewhere else. There are no barriers to be able to serve countries, and also it's about the consumers. If you don't want to take a taxi and you want to take an Uber, regulation won't forbid you as a customer to do it, in the long term. It's funny, the Uber example in Argentina, they wanted to shut down Uber. And they started searching and there was no office there. So they couldn't shut anything down, And the same thing with the Internet of Value. If Development Bank of China start offering poor people in the world 5% interest microloans, and people will just receive the tokens and go to the kiosk next door and just cash them out, those tokens for local money, then the government can scream and shout, and consumers will use it. So it is very interesting how this will evolve. Of course, countries will get a little bit concerned because it's very difficult to regulate this. It's like you cannot send emails outside your country. Technology does not follow any political boundaries. It's been created by humans and don't make any sense. So we'll see how this evolves. And as I said before, it might take 2 years or it might take 50. And maybe they're going to burn some people on the parks that happened last time. But it's definitely a very interesting moment to be sharing.
Thank you for this short answer, Gabby. I think at this point we need to follow up. So thank you, Gabriel.
Thank you.
If you guys have questions,
yeah, gonna stay around.
Project that want to present.
Thank you very much.
You.
Thank you.
So he's my friend Neil. He's going to introduce Pesabase.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll let you run the show.
Okay, this is
here.
okay. This
Go ahead.
Forward, backwards. Okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Neil. Oh, this is better. Okay, thanks. Hi, everyone. My name is Neil. As I was saying, I have to say, man, it's really cold in France. Wow. I mean, I just came from Australia via Kenya, and it couldn't be so much opposite. It's 40 degrees in Australia when I left, 20 degrees in Kenya, and then I come here and it's like -10, and I'm thinking, man, I should have bought a jacket or something. Anyway, I think we're all running low on time. I just want to talk to you about Pesabase. Pesabase is basically my realization that things have to change. I've thought about this for years and years. I moved to Australia in 2003, which is about 14, 15 years ago. I finished my schooling. It's a bit strange. Finished my schooling, and part of, when you move overseas as a migrant, one of the things that stays in your mind is that you really want to support the family that you left back home. And so as the years went by, I kept thinking that sending money should be a lot easier. It should really be simple. And most of all, should really be very, very cheap. So when you pay 9–10% to really send $100–200, when you're a student, it tends to, you really feel the pinch. It gets better when you actually end up being a worker and you can earn more. But you kind of think, if you're paying 9 or 10%, you think, well, actually it's $100, so that's $9. It's $200, so that's $18 or $20. And that can actually make a difference in a lot of ways. So for years, I kind of thought, okay, Western Union, Wild Remit Letter, people like Dapshield, they're trying their best and they're providing a service, and thank God that they were there at the beginning. But my belief is that things should really keep getting better. And so I kept thinking about it. I never really found a solution until in 2013 I came across Bitcoin. So when I read about Bitcoin, I thought, someone actually thought. It's like someone read my brain and said, why don't we turn money into something like what email is and just make it simple to send to anyone? I mean, I could be in Australia and you guys are freezing here, but I can send you a Bitcoin. So I looked at it and I thought, wow, this is amazing. So I became involved in the community, and I just kept following it and became part of it. In fact, in 2013, I tried to found BitPesa back then, just before the lady that currently runs it took the name and ran with it. Because I thought the time was right to build a solution that tackles these problems. So the problems of currency inflation. The funny thing is, Africa is a big continent. It's like 55, 54 countries. But out of the 100, 200 countries in the world at the moment, we have the honor of having the top 10, like 10 of the 20 most inflationary countries are from that continent. That tells you a lot about the governance there. It really tells you a lot. And most of what it tells you is that the people that run those governments care more about themselves than about the people that the structure is supposed to support. So this is a big problem. I mean, Gabriel is doing something that is close to my heart, and so are a lot of people in the blockchain space. I think we need to tackle this and not give these people the power to say no or yes to something that these people need. So what did we think and what did we want to do? 2013 went, 2014 went, and we're pretty much in 2018 now. But in between, a lot of things changed. Bitcoin grew up. It became a powerful force that anyone around the world can rally to. All of us meet each other, and when you talk to someone, you say, look, I'm interested in Bitcoin, I'm interested in Ethereum, I'm really interested in that space. It's like your brothers and sisters. You found a calling that all of you can rally behind. So when I found it, I thought, okay, now the time is right to do this. 2017 came, and a lot of us that were around during the 2013, 2014 years now had the ability to quit our jobs. I was working for IBM back then. You could now quit your job and just say, you know what, let me do something that I've wanted to do for a long time. And to me, that is Pesabase. So what am I trying to do with that? Pesabase is essentially just a multi-currency wallet using tokenized capabilities of blockchain, as well as being able to read Bitcoin and Ethereum and handle them. So for us, we think that as these technologies develop, whether it's RSK or MISIGO, that these things are going to give us the ability to handle money without having to go back to an institution, without having to go back to countries to do things a certain way. Where there's internet, there's now going to be ability to have digital currencies. I look at what digital currencies are giving us similar, akin to what freedom of speech is. If you cannot transact with people without fear, you in effect really don't have a freedom that you can call your own. So we're building Pesabase. We also thought, look, there's a lot of exchanges in the world at the moment. But one of the challenges that Africa has is the fragmentation around it means that it's almost going to be like a pitch battle, country by country, to try and get anything done in this space. And each country is going to have its viewpoints, going to have its ways of doing different things. So we thought, all right, let's do an exchange that allows anyone that uses our tokenized currencies to be able to send value there and actually transact. And so we came up with a plan to build these two things. So what do we want to do? Our dream is actually to make remittance, sending money, holding money, almost free, and free in the next 5 to 10 years. M-Pesa started the rally call to make things better, but if you are poor, even the cost of using M-Pesa is still high. So we think it should really be free at the end of the day. So we want to say, look, use the same method that M-Pesa did, but now bring it to the blockchain. Use agents that service customers, let them receive deposits, let them hand out deposits, and transact on this network. And that's our goal. So our technology is basically a multi-currency wallet. You looked at what RSK has done, similar thing. We're using the MISIGO blockchain. And we think the ability to actually read Bitcoin and be able to handle Ethereum and other tokenized currencies doing that. As time went by, M-Pesa ended up handling the equivalent of 28 billion US dollars a year. In effect, it became a bank without planning to become a bank, because when you handle so much money, it's $5 per every individual, but when you have like 40 or 50 million people, that $5 becomes a lot of money. So we think with time that means that we will end up being a bank that handles and does loans. And with that capability, we also can then offer assets, whether it's tokenized loyalty points or fiat currencies, because then we will have met the rules most of these countries want. So what then are the use cases of our token? We think that if we provide very cheap remittance costs, then we can actually tell our users that, look, pay a small amount, become a member, send money for almost free or free. And so effectively what our token is, it's just a membership token. With, in some cases, if you are really interested in cryptocurrencies, the people that normally send $100, $200 home generally have not really learned about Bitcoin and Ethereum in general. But as this space grows and as these technologies become powerful, we think that they want to become part of the game. If you have $50 and that's your saving for the year, and your currency is dying, you really actually want a choice. And so we think that having an exchange that a user can get a discount from will help them. So if you can buy Bitcoin, Ethereum, you name it, for really, really cheap, it gives you the option to save outside that country, outside those institutions that may fail at any moment. And that's our aim. The long-term goal is that all these tokens will then be banned and that we'll end up with 0 tokens and a free ecosystem that people can send and receive money in. So in effect, our approach to marketing and sales is in communities. Africa is very community-centric. I come from a people that even after moving from South Sudan, Kenya, Uganda, all the way to Australia, a lot of them still get together once a month, once a fortnight, and they want to do stuff together. So you want to approach them in those places and actually tell them that there's actually a better way to send money. Some of the things that we want to do, of course, are partnerships. These are going to take time because a lot of people are still learning cryptocurrencies, what Bitcoin and Ethereum is. In Kenya, for example, the current trading volume is about 300 to 400 US dollars a week. I'm probably part of that because at the moment I live on Bitcoin. I just moved to Kenya in December last year and actually sell Bitcoins in order to pay for the stuff that I would pay there. I think that is growing. The excitement there is really, really great. I'm looking forward to being a part of the Kenyan community and actually helping this grow. When we talk about competition in the space, you look at what current players are doing, and these are the costs. You know, you look at 11, 10, 11, 9. Sending money is still costly in an era in which sending emails is an instant choice. So we think that should go down. Western Union is still expensive. Uganda is shockingly 18%. Now, actually, when I was doing research, I was shocked by that. I thought things should be getting better, but it's what it is. Wild Remit is a better choice, and a lot of customers are actually discovering that. It's easier and cheaper to use Wild Remit at this point. It's still 6 to 10%. We hope to really, really keep pushing this. So what have we done today, really, as a team? We started a few months ago, you know, when the whole cryptosphere just went nuts and prices just went crazy. Some of us never thought that was going to happen in the next 5 to 10 years. We were pleasantly surprised. So we decided this is what we're going to do. We first thought the major problem that any company in that space has to face is compliance. So if you're going to launch an ICO, if you're going to raise money, you need to be sure that compliance is okay. You need to have the licenses in Australia and some of your starting countries, Kenya, Uganda, South Sudan, to be able to say, okay, I have a place that I can start from. And by the way, Australia surprisingly actually sends about 250 million US dollars to East Africa every year. So for us, this was like a good starting point to test and actually verify what we're trying to do. So we worked on compliance. And when we got to South Sudan, the institutions were not up to scratch, and we thought it could be a year before we got anything. And we decided, let's just acquire a company that already has the right stuff. And so we decided to get one there. That was like an easier way to get into the market. Some of the things we've done, we've got some company in Uganda that is helping us with integration to M-Pesa, MTN, mobile wallets. One of the reasons why we actually wanted to separate things, the exchange and the wallet, was because the rules around Bitcoins and Ethereum and cryptocurrencies is community driven at the moment. the authorities have not yet come on board to decide what they are. And so people like Safaricom, the owner of M-Pesa, are still scared. BitPesa got into a fight with them, and we really don't want to start our things by fighting a juggernaut at this point. So we decided someone that's providing service integration would be a way to get started, and then as time goes by, we can apply for own direct integration into these systems. We've done some tours. We did one with Yassine here in Asia last year. We were in La Bitcoin with Gabriel here, trying to learn how to dance the South American way as opposed to the African way. And we're also working towards a release of a simple wallet as well as a simple exchange interface. So probably after my trip next week to Gibraltar and legal advices and the whole works, now we can look at doing our first seed raise. We've effectively not touched anyone's money. It's mostly been our own founders' money to do all these things, just for the simple reason compliance can be a pain. If you don't solve the compliance problem, raising money is not going to solve it for you. So that's been our approach. So who are the guys doing this stuff? That's basically me up there. I've worked for IBM for about 5 years, done other stuff in the IT space before that in Australia. Ivan has worked in the investment space for a while. Daniel does the Bitcoin JS development. If you search for him, you'll probably find him online, though he's currently freaked out about the whole government rules about ICOs in general. James has worked in East Africa a lot, so he's helping us approach that market with open eyes. And then the people that are helping us, pretty much keeping us on toes, Eddie, Yassine, Vansa and Wendell are guys in the Ethereum space. Vance is the managing director of Omisigo. How we got to be interested in Omisigo was when I was leaving IBM and telling Wendell, because I've known Wendell since 2013, like I knew Eddie back in Singapore. I talked to Wendell about this, and he basically said, look, I got a startup company's been running for a few years that are trying to do this thing. We've got to look at it. And so we looked at Omisigo and we started talking to them, and in the process we actually ended up investing in the ICO, and of course that meant that we came closer and closer, and so we are watching closely what they're doing. We're also plugged into the ecosystem by Eddie Coincilium. We sort of directly or indirectly invested in RSK too, so we kind of spread all over the place. Yassine got on board and has been helping us a lot. So that's the direction we're taking at the moment. The next series of steps that we want to do is make sure that we have a legal jurisdiction, which is Gibraltar, for what we want to do. So I'll be going to Gibraltar next. We also then want to release the MVP at some point in the next 2 to 3 months for the exchange, as well as a simple mobile wallet interface that makes us test our market Australia to East Africa, and we see how we go. And at that point, we'll then plan and think about ICO. So in effect, I felt the need to just do this. And the funny thing is, I've always longed for a chance to actually build something like this. And even now, when I don't have a reason to really do it financially, I think it's something worth doing. I enjoy it a lot. I enjoy the space, and I love meeting guys like you. So that's us for us. If you have any questions, email me, or you can ask me now. Yeah, that's about it. Thank you.
Quick question for Neil. Yeah, go ahead. Sure. Yes, one precision I would like is how you operate the next step. Because until you reach mass adoption and everyone downloads your app, how will locally people be able to exchange the value they've received? Basically, my use case is I've got my sister-in-law who's in Senegal. If I send her money via Pesabase, well, she will be stuck with Pesabase on her phone and no one to trade it with. So, does that work?
I think it's what is termed as a chicken and egg problem. So effectively what we're trying to do is we start with markets that we know. And that means we have to build the agent network locally for people to cash in, cash out. Where they already have networks like M-Pesa, for example, they can cash out directly into those wallets. But the end goal is that the places that we operate in, we already have agents, and we are building the ability to cash out, cash in. But the interesting thing is, as time goes by, even banking institutions in Africa are actually picking up the game. So with time, we should be able to integrate and allow bank-to-bank transfers. But the poor generally do not have access to banks. So that means we really need to have agents and people that come on board and benefit.
Last quick question.
Yeah,
Maybe
sure.
an idea.
Yeah.
Why not, instead of using agents, local agents, using the mobile operators that already have the network? And so, because I know it's really used mobile money in Africa, so that would be like.
Generally, mobile wallets are one currency, one country institutions, and like Dether. So if you go from Kenya to Uganda, you have different currencies. So how do you swap between them? So that's part of what we're trying to solve, really, so that you have the ability to go from US dollars to Kenyan shillings, vice versa. But then you can also now go from these layers of country government currencies and go into the fiat environment and be able, with the same wallet or actually using an exchange, be able to trade and hold them in that wallet. So we want to provide across the board solution. Yeah, thanks. Any more questions? Okay, thanks, guys.
Yeah. Good evening, everyone. First of all, I want to apologize for coming late. Actually, we were not late. I was among you here, but you didn't see me. The fact is, I'm an invisible man. I know that everyone can see me here, but actually, that's what's written on my driving license. So my name is Tay. I'm coming from the Netherlands, from The Hague. We were invited here to present today, so thank you very much. I was born in Kuwait for Syrian parents, and in 1990 the Gulf War erupted. One of the war tactics is to destroy civil registries, and this is what happened in Kuwait. The civil registry that issued my birth certificate was destroyed, and with it the only proof of where I was born was gone. So when I came to the Netherlands in 2012 to apply for my job, I wanted to do my driving license. We call them the RDV, or the institution responsible for issuing driving licenses. They asked me, where's your birth certificate? I told them I don't have one. So that's the result. But actually, the pain goes beyond me. And today we have 660 million vulnerable people around the world, with 200 million out of them being affected from natural disasters. And that's why the inspiration was to start Tykn. And there is another part for the inspiration which will come later in the presentation. So I think even the citizens of the city of Paris, they felt the effects of climate change, and I think the eastern part of the Louvre Museum was evacuated recently because of the rising water levels. So we learned from the past few years that natural disasters actually do not discriminate. Whether you are in Sierra Leone or Florida, or like you're in St. Martin or Paris, wherever, when natural disasters strike, the damage is big. The damage is big not only on material things, but on our right to exist, which is presented through identities and documents. So throughout actually the history of human beings. We issue our documents in a very centralized position. And especially legal documents and state documents, they are paper-based. Driving licenses, passports, birth certificates. Although digital copies exist, and governments are trying their best to go for digital or digitization, the problem is still centralization and one authority controlling your data and saving it in a place where it can be susceptible for permanent loss or even fraud. And in general, in many cases, terrorism has some links to frauded documents, which gives us the notice that these documents are not resilient. So when we started Tykn, we started it from this place. So I told you I'm born in Kuwait from Syrian parents, but actually my work contract in the Netherlands finished in 2014, and the immigration services had one option for me is to go back to Syria. Now 2014 was also the climax of the influx of refugees coming to Europe, and I was thinking to myself, everybody's coming here, why shall I go back there? It's a reasonable decision making. So 2014 I applied for asylum, and I thought, okay, I did not cross irregularly to the Netherlands, so I came with a valid visit visa issued by the embassy of the Netherlands in Dubai, where I was spending my last 10 years. And it must not be a problem to verify who I am. So the lawyer said, you know what, it will take you maybe 3 weeks, max 3 months, and you will be back home. Do you have an idea how many weeks it took? Just throw a guess. It took 2 years actually. From 2014 till 2016, I was staying in this room. Not in the same room, but same size in 5 different locations. And the reason is, the asylum process is also paper-based. And the Dutch government failed to recognize the same person who was living 4 years on their land, was paying taxes even for 4 years. And they decided, let's keep him here. But actually it was good. It was good because I started Tykn. And what I noticed also there, that it's not only my pain, and it's not only the vulnerable people, it's the refugees who are losing their documents and they cannot prove the authority or the issuing authority, the authenticity of this document. So actually the neighbor in my room, my roommate, he was a doctor. So he explained to me, if you blindfold me, I can do a heart surgery. But he doesn't, and he has his certificates with him. But the immigration services cannot call the university that issued this document to check, did really Abdul Rahman studied medicine, or is he really a doctor? So this is where we participated in Startup Weekend in 2014. Actually, the room next to us, I think they have Startup Weekend Paris. And more or less it was November 2016, 2014, so no, 2016. And we won. We won the event based on the idea of we want to protect academic certificates against fraud and against permanent loss. At Startup Weekend, there was also the founder of the Rockstart Accelerator, Oscar Kneppers, and one of the gifts that we won was to go to his accelerator and pitch, which we did. And from 1,100 applications, Tykn was chosen to continue in the accelerator program, and this is where our story started. So we worked on the ANA ecosystem. ANA in Arabic means me. It means I. So I control my data. I decide with whom to share it. And we have several pillars in this ecosystem. What we're working now on is the ANA app and the ANA Pay and the ANA APIs. So the ANA app is an app for identity management, which is built on the backbone of the Sovereign framework. And Sovereign is a blockchain specifically designed for identity. Technically, it's a distributed ledger, so there is no token model inside it. And they use, or we use, the standards of the W3C, decentralized identity claims. So someone can claim who he is on his smartphone, and a validator can scan the QR code that represents the data behind the claim and verify, is this really Udine? Is this really Ahmad? Is this really Tay? And this verification is stored on the ledger, allowing us to give the interoperability for other institutions. The ANA app also contains a storage, a self-storage. So the documents are stored in a similar model to the IPFS, and the user decides who to give access to when you share your document. The ANA APIs allow existing institutions to share the digital identities that they have with the sovereign network. And again, for the reasons of privacy and interoperability, we decided to leverage this technology in order to let to leverage existing databases. For example, again, back to my driving license, if we have the issuing authority of the birth certificate, which is a municipality usually in the Netherlands, they can communicate it directly with the RDV, the issuing authority of the driving license, in a privacy compliant manner, especially that we have the GDPR rules coming in May 2018, which is like 2 or 3 months from now. So we were working very, like, even more than hard. So we were working day and night to try to get the adoption for this technology and for these tools that we were developing. The first client that, or partner that we were able to hook up was the 510 data team from the Red Cross. Now Red Cross is a very old organization, 150 years old in the humanitarian sector, and it was hard to convince them because they had absolutely no idea what's blockchain, they had absolutely no idea how it works, and when they hear the word or when they see me with the Bitcoin pin, they get scared. They think we're gonna money launder or we're gonna like do some crazy things with this technology. But actually what we did was a very simple trick. And I advise you, if you want to explain this technology for someone, to use this trick. Actually, it's 2 tricks. The first one, we designed our own acronym for cryptocurrencies and blockchain. And we call this acronym the I-bond. So in order to explain what is blockchain, we use one word. James Bond, Anna, I-bond. I-bond represents immutable. Blockchain is an immutable ledger. What you write on it is like a small black book, what the mafia uses usually to write who they own and who needs to pay them. But what you write on this black book cannot be changed. So going back to my story of the birth certificate, if in this book we wrote a representation for this document, then I would be able to prove that this document exists as long as I live, and even after my death. So with immutable, I bond. B, borderless. Remember where I was, in a refugee camp that was actually a prison. Milosevic was prosecuted here. It was the International Criminal Court. This was the prison where prisoners of the International Criminal Court go to The Hague. This was the refugee camp. Borderless. No one was able to come to me, but I was still able to use Bitcoins in the camp to order the food I like, pizza, burgers, beer, because we have websites in the Netherlands that I send them Bitcoin and they send us food. It's open. When you use this technology, no one asks you for your first name, last name, date of birth, and it's an application, you just download it and you're financially included. It's neutral, has the similar characteristics of being open, and the most important, it is decentralized. And here we cover the word iBond. And by decentralized, that means no one is able to shut down this network. So once I understood how powerful is this iBond, and on a Skype session with the director of the 510 data team, I convinced him to do a transaction with him. So just, I need you to download an application, and I want to send you over Skype, and we both live in the same country. He's in Amsterdam, I'm in The Hague. I told him, I just need you to download an application, give me 1 minute of your time, and I'm gonna send you money without even asking you anything about you. And his mind, like I can see on Skype, the smoke was coming out of his head. You know, it was mind-blowing for him. So this is how 510 got convinced that, yes, this is what we want, this is the innovation that we want to interact with. But they added a twist to it. And this twist was the forecast-based financing. And here is where we thought of Rootstock as our partner in this mission. So what is forecast-based financing? 510 is a data team. And they have data algorithms that can forecast an event such as a flood or a natural disaster. And before the disaster happens, they are able to warn the community in order to take protection. So we told them, what if we are able to build smart contracts that collect the data and trigger the action and send money, even in micropayments, to the people, collecting it from Dutch donors through their smartphones and having an automatic seamless process. So you don't need any more days or weeks for the money to arrive. You don't need to have a banking license in the area that you want to help. And you're not only saving lives, you're decreasing the amount of aid money that we need to help communities. So this is why we're starting a 2-year program with the Red Cross to work in 2 areas. One that is highly digitized, like St. Martin in the Caribbean, and one that is on the other end of the spectrum, Malawi, Africa. And together we're gonna discover in June, till end of the year, how identities that are resilient to fraud and permanent loss, combined with forecast-based financing, can help communities in a more efficient way and in a more effective way, with a natural byproduct: transparency in aid. It was not our goal to go for that mission. It is just an added value for this project. This is the team behind Tykn. Khalid Maliki, my co-founder, he's at the back. We have Jimmy Snook, our business developer. Jimmy is 21 years old. He's he's not a whale yet, he's on his way. But the team is so diversified, so dynamic. We're distributed around the world. Randa is in Lebanon, for example, and she helped us with our first use case in one of the refugee camps in Lebanon, where we did our market research on refugees and birth registrations. And the success of Tykn today, with our partnership in Red Cross and having this early adopter of this technology, opening the doors for many NGOs in the Netherlands to participate in this project, is also for two major people. Dr. Mo Levin, he's our advisor, CEO of Keynote of Amsterdam, and his network and connections in the crypto space allow us to get in touch with developers, get in touch with many influential people that can affect positively this program. Marloes Pomp, she is the Dutch liaison officer for the government, successfully with her partner Koen Hartog. They worked on more than 35 blockchain projects within the Dutch government. And for me, as a previous knowledge worker and currently a refugee from Syria, to enter the Ministry of Interior and the Ministry of Justice on weekly basis to talk to ministers and the police and many people from the government, this is something like gives me the butterflies every time. Because where I come from, we have an opposite relation with the government, and usually we're against them, we're not with them. So our roadmap for this year would be to launch the ANA app in June and test it in St. Martin for the first 10,000 users, and then go to Malawi and test it with around 50 to 80,000 users, and then at the end of the year have a successful forecast-based financing linked to smart contracts application. We didn't get the name for it yet. And this whole journey from 2012, since I first encountered Bitcoin, until 2018 today, resonates with one thing, that although we hear this is a hype, blockchain is a hype, Bitcoin is a bubble, cryptocurrencies are a bubble, and I'm sorry to break it for you, but Bitcoin is not for you guys. Cryptocurrencies is not for you. Cryptocurrencies are for people like me who were at a period of their time with no identity, with no bank account, with no insurance, with absolutely nothing, even with no birth certificate. And just to make it worse, like, my accent is Lebanese because I lived in Lebanon all my time. And being in a Syrian refugee camp is like saying we have, let's say, someone like you really hate, and we just put him in this room. So it was really hard to adapt. But when everyone saw that I am living my life like I used to before and eat the food I want, because in a camp you're allowed to eat the food only they give you. So me using this currency, at that time transaction fees were very small, so I didn't mind. Today I can't do this with Bitcoin. But using it and telling more people about it and see how the change happened in their life is a proof that this is not a hype. That we can really give hope, not only for people like me and for refugees, but basically for all the unbanked people around the world and all the people who don't have identity, and even the ones that have identity and that is paper-based and centralized and it has all these disadvantages still that doesn't fit the digital world we are living in. So yes, this is not a hype, this is hope. Thank you. Shoot your questions.
In the slide before, there is a question mark regarding on the for lead blockchain architect.
Yes.
Does it mean that it is someone who we don't know, or
No, this is someone we're looking for actually. I missed to mention that.
Okay. I thought that maybe it was because you don't need one, because you are relying on sovereign.
True. We are relying on Sovereign, and Sovereign actually is built on Hyperledger Indy. So if there are blockchain developers here who can give us a better implementation even, or who have their own architect, or who can convince us in a better solution, of course we're open. We're blockchain agnostic. We're not focusing on one line and being strict with it. We're just taking what we have at this moment in our hands to save the time and save the energies and really build something and learn from it.
Okay. If I may add something important. So let's imagine that Tykn is in place.
Yeah.
How your story would have been different? Because you mean that in that case, your birth certificate could have been registered.
Exactly. So let's go back to 1990.
But who is attesting that your birth certificate that is being registered is legitimate?
Yes, good question. So let's go back to 1990. And let's imagine I'm being born at this moment. There would be a midwife in the room, and she would have her, let's say we are in an advanced 1990. She has her smartphone in her hand, and my mom would be claiming all my identity claims. My first name, my last name, her name, my father's name, the place of birth we are in. Actually, the place of birth can be also linked to a GPS location. The midwife would be doing the same thing, or she can just take her smartphone, scan the QR code on the ANA app, and the data will be copied to what the midwife has. And this connection, this human factor, is essential in verifying legal identities. So this is why we chose we chose each other with the Red Cross. Red Cross is an institution, again, 150 years old in providing the experience for humanitarian aid. So we trust them. We trust the logo, we trust the brand, and we trust their people. If we give those tools for Red Cross to help them issue identities in a way that they can never be lost, they can never be frauded, then we are achieving a solution for my problem and for problem of millions of people.
Thank you. And I assume that also by a Red Cross or bigger organism or maybe government, you have an ability to do KYC to people for whatever.
Of course. The use case actually is amazing for ICOs and for banks and financial institutions. And Sovereign is made of a group of companies. Tykn is one of them. We call ourselves the founding stewards. So we allow for institutions like NGOs, financial institutions, insurance companies, everyone who's working with data, who's working with identity, to write claims and to read claims, identity claims, in a way that is interoperable and that has privacy not as a feature but as a core design in the technology. So it's a mix of zero knowledge proofs, it's a mix of the W3C standards, and at the same time, although it is permissioned ledger, yet it is a public one. So it's a public, open, permissioned ledger. Sovereign released their white paper, which we contributed to writing the white paper. It is on sovereign.org. You can download it and read it. And there is a token sale coming up.
Thank you. Last question. So once we have millions of people enrolled, maybe we will want to use that. Maybe we will want to do that via an API, so that, for instance, I am okay to share part of my life, part of my private information with some companies.
Yes.
Is it already in place in terms of API, and how do you make sure that only the data that you want to share are being shared
Yes.
only with the groups that you are okay with?
True. I will simplify your example even. In the Netherlands, when I shave my beard, I look under 18. I'm small in size. So when I go to the liquor shops, they ask me for my driving license. Now, I like my privacy, and although I use Facebook and LinkedIn and I'm active on social media, but the guy at the liquor shop has no right to look at all my driving license. That includes my tax number, my address, my date of birth, and all other data. With Sovereign, I'm able to share if I'm above 18 or under 18 with one click from the same document. And this is the functionality of the API, and this is the power of zero knowledge proofs, which can give you a certainty on the data that you request with certain limitations. So all what he will see on his screen is my face maybe, and the sign that is plus 18, because this is what he's interested in. He's not interested in knowing my date of birth. Well, yes.
Big data. So it means, is it an advantage for you? Is blockchain generally technology trying to be regulated?
Of course. And actually, one of the countries in the world that have incorporated big data and open data in their regulation is the government of Dubai. Now, again, for my luck that I've lived there for 10 years, we have excellent relations with many parties in Dubai, and I speak Arabic. We went several times with Dr. Mo Levin to Dubai because he was the person to start the blockchain council in Dubai. And we are explaining the concepts of sovereign to them. Actually, it doesn't need explanation for them. The question when we talked with the Dubai officials was, what can you do with sovereign for us? What can you deliver for us now? So it's not, for some countries, they are educated about this technology. For some countries like the Netherlands, we had a hearing recently in the parliament, and the level of information is like very low.
So do you believe that there are some standardization about maybe
For digital identities, we believe in standardizations. Yes, for digital identities specifically, we need standards for that. Regarding to birth certificates, and this is also an important point here. Passports, they have international standards for issuing them, whether from Malawi to Kenya to anywhere around the world. When it comes to birth certificates, we don't have this standard. So does it make sense that the document that issues your passport is paper-based and has absolutely no standard? A country like United States, they can have 6,000 different birth certificates. 6,000. And do you know what this means? This means you can fake it, you can obtain your driving license, you can obtain a fake passport with an original paper on it. So the document is original, but the data on it is fake. What do you think will happen later? When you have a fake driving license and a fake passport? Terrorism. As simple as that. And this is how 9/11 attacks were executed. This is how the Hamas leader in Dubai was executed. From a European country. And the day that Al-Mabhouh was executed in Dubai was the day that European Union woke up and said, shit, our passports are not secure. Because the Israeli Mossad was able to obtain original documents with fake data on it, obtained from birth certificates for a German guy who was dead. So this is why also we're talking with governments and telling them, use sovereign, and hopefully if there is better solutions than sovereign, use blockchain to protect documents against fraud and against permanent loss.
Could you please just repeat the question? Because I have some people that are on the collaboration.
Yeah. Sure. this is where we talked about the human factor. So in the sovereign model, there is something called the guardian model, where if someone is not able to protect or to handle his identity, like a newborn baby, the mother would be taking care of this document. Now, since there is someone scanning the QR code, there is a human-to-human relation in this. It's not going digital without verifications. So reputations of human beings are very important, especially on the internet. And we were just discussing in the car the case of a guy called Logan, who YouTube decided to stop his ad stream revenue because he was in Japan in a forest, and he was mocking a person who committed suicide. So he was standing next to a tree with the body hanging, and he was making funny videos. His reputation got destroyed in 3 seconds. It is from the issuing party itself. Once it is issued through a trusted party. We're looking into this. Personally, I can tell you we're trying not to go into biometrics, but we're looking into what claims that can be registered in your identity. No, there's no biometrics involved. So, can we continue, Yassine? Yeah. 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 Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Yes. So, thank you so much. Yeah.
English? In English, sorry. The battery is a bit low, so
Okay.
I'm trying to keep it. But if you feel like it's too heavy for you, just unplug it. So, yeah, you can unplug it.
Good.
Just go for it. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, bonsoir. Je m'appelle Bill Baird. Okay. Thank you. I'm going to take just 1 second and have everybody just stand up for a second. Just stand up. Can we just stand up? Stand up, stand up. We're going to put our hands in the air. Woo! Okay, doesn't that feel good? Anybody know who Amy Cuddy is? Yes. Amy Cuddy, she had something called the power pose that she made very famous, talking about raising our hands above our head, and that you do that before you have an interview or some sort of stressful situation, and it increases testosterone, decreases cortisol, and in general gets us out of our seats and makes us feel a little better. Okay, everybody can sit down now. Okay, so it's been, I guess, 12 years since I've been to France, and very excited to be here. The last time I was here was 12 years ago. The only French that I knew was, oh, great. Excusez-moi, où est discothèque? And you had to shake a little bit like that when you ask it. So, but that was 12 years ago. And 12 years ago, I was just getting ready to start my education and pharmacy school, and I did a 4-year undergraduate degree, and then I did 4 years of a doctorate degree. And when I finished that, I was shackled with around $140,000 US in debt. And I went out into my career, I began working, and I had these large debts, and kind of began to weigh down on me. And eventually, through kind of some education classes that I took on my own, I came across something called Bitcoin. And it was a 3-day event back in 2013. Not that many events like this were happening at that time. It was just starting to kind of get big and or getting a little press. And I decided at that point in time this was something big, and that I took $1,000 and I bought five Bitcoins. And And I took 2 of those Bitcoins and I put it into the Ethereum ICO in 2014. And if anybody knows anything about that, I made a lot of bad investments. That was not one of them. So that was a good one. But I guess what it taught me, though, was that you never know where that piece of knowledge is going to come from. You never know what piece of education you might get somewhere that's going to change your life. And for me, all the school, all that, that I got that piece of paper, I stamped that degree, that's not what really got me to where I am now. It's the independent education that I took on my own. So I just want to take a quick poll. Who here has had the opportunity to graduate from high school? Everybody. That's pretty much everybody. That's wonderful. And who here had the opportunity to go to university, had the opportunity to graduate from college? Most people here. Well, did you know that 94% of the world didn't get that opportunity? 94% don't have that opportunity. Did you know that your knowledge is worth money? That's what we're doing. ODEM is creating an on-demand education marketplace to make education more accessible and more affordable to more people. So there's a lot of barriers to education right now. All those people, there's hundreds of millions of people out there right now that don't have access. It's because of institutional barriers, it's because of financial barriers, it's because of a lot of different things out there. Obviously, education is a complicated topic. But we believe, myself and my business partner, Richard Magel, we've been in international education now for 5 years. We've been running an international education company. And one of the things that we found within international education is that actually it's a very convoluted process. There are schools, there are universities, there are education management companies, there are learning centers, there's education travel companies, there are agents. And each one of these within the middle of this process are taking on average around 20%. Sometimes it's 10, sometimes as much as 50%. But in general, the student is paying as much as 150% above what the education actually costs. And so what the goal of ODEM is to allow the student to connect directly with the educator for in-person, meaningful learning experiences that are relevant to their lives and careers now. I want to play just a quick video for you guys. How do I do that? Yep. Wonderful. No. Well, if that doesn't work, then it's going to be pretty sad because it's an awesome video. But I could keep going a little further. So we're building an ecosystem, and inside that ecosystem we have students, we have educators, we have facilities, we have translators, we have all the elements that it takes to deliver in-person live education. And eventually the last piece that's very, very important for us is that we'll be bringing companies into our ecosystem. And where that becomes important is because ultimately, as students, what we want is we want to gather this knowledge and we want to prepare for that job, that endeavor that we're going to take that will lead to success, will lead to opportunity. And that's what we believe the ODEM marketplace is going to deliver to our students as well as our educators. You can actually click that on that. Okay. This is interesting here. Let's see. For those of you that are online right now, everyone is just smiling.
By the time most students complete a 4-year degree, the world is radically different. The skills they will need for employment have changed, and there is immediate pressure to start paying off student loans. The ability to learn new skills in real time, as they become relevant for your career, is the future of higher education. ODEM is creating a global marketplace where students, educators, and professionals interested in continuing education can come together and access in-person educational courses that are relevant for their careers now. Through ODEM, educators are no longer chained to old world institutions and can instead offer their own curriculum through the ODEM marketplace and receive direct compensation for courses they host in the real world. The ODEM educational marketplace is powered by smart contracts and the ODEM token in order to make education more affordable, remove expensive intermediaries and application processes which are the norm and a barrier to higher education, and facilitate prompt payment to ODEM verified educators and issuance of educational certificates to students who complete their courses. The certificate gets added to the public blockchain, which helps build the professor's educational reputation and career visibility for the student. ODEM launches February 17th, 2018, and if you want to be a part of the future of high-quality on-demand education, contribute to the ODEM crowd sale.
Okay, wonderful. So we're going to go back to the presentation. In general, I know everybody's been here for a long time tonight. This is amazing to see this on a Friday night. It's this many people interested in blockchain. So I just want to give everybody a round of applause. Clap for yourselves. Yep. Yep, this is great. I want to talk, a lot of people ask us, why blockchain? Why a token, specifically in our model? I think that's a good question. And one of the things that's really important about this is that we're delivering in-person live education, which is is complex coordination of multi-payer and multi-payee parties. What you have is you have educators, you have students, and multiple students from all different places coming together. You have facilities, you might have interpreters, you might have media, potentially you could have travel involved, accommodations, things like this. We've been doing this now for almost 5 years. And what we found is that we spend a tremendous amount of time writing individual contracts, doing a lot of administrative back-end work to make this happen. And for us, it just made sense. The blockchain just made sense that would streamline and make this whole process a lot more efficient. Obviously, payment as well. The second one is payment, cross-border, frictionless payment, easy, multiple currencies. Right now, one of the things that we're working with is we are building on the Ethereum blockchain, but we're looking at doing our payment and settlement network through Stellar. Stellar is kind of like a clone, if you're not familiar, of Ripple, and provides a really nice, low-cost, frictionless platform for us that we plan to snap on to the back of our system. And then the last piece of it is the token. And the token itself is very interesting. We have something that's called a discount token model. And it was developed by one of our, someone who's very involved with our project, our lead architect and developer, Dr. Michael Zargum. And what it does is interesting is that for educators that hold the token, it discounts fees for them on the platform. For students that hold the token, it actually provides discounted classes for them. So all the marketplace participants are incentivized to hold tokens, use tokens, escrow tokens in the model, and that for us it lines up well and rewards all of the marketplace participants that join into the marketplace. So let's see here. I'm not going to get too deeply into this slide. Basically, this is a bird's eye view of the system as a whole. I mean, we've got a lot of work that's put into this, and a great team that's working on building our alpha right now as we speak. I encourage everyone, if you want to know more information, to go to our website, www.odem.io. And in there, there's the white paper. There's a ton of information about the project, about all the system requirements and whatnot that are being built as we speak. As mentioned just a second ago, we are doing an initial coin offering. This is not working here. Let's see. In our pre-sale, we had about 2.2 million that sold out within a day, and we are in about 1 week for now. Our hard cap on the next main crowd sale is 9 million euros. So we're really excited. We've got almost 2,000 people whitelisted as we speak right now. The list is growing every day. We've got about a week, but we are going through a very rigorous KYC process. So if you were interested, you have to go in, sign up, and upload documentation, which it would be great for the gentleman who spoke earlier for us to have some sort of verification system in place for that in the future. As mentioned down here, there's a number of dates. Again, I don't want to go into all the details, but I encourage you to go to our white paper if you're interested. One more thing just to mention is we've been doing this for 5 years already. So this is not something that's like theoretical that we're going to go from, you know, we're taking this giant leap of faith. We've been in business for 5 years. We have around 250 professors from top universities around the United States. We're expanding to different professors in Europe. And ultimately what the goal is that it's not just professors, it's people in local communities. I mean, someone right around the corner from you might have that piece of information that might make the difference in your life, that might make the difference in your career. So we're encouraging, after we get established with professors, we're looking for other educators to join into the platform and make this more of a local thing. So, we've got professors from Harvard and Stanford and NYU and whatnot, and myself and Richard have been doing this for years. We're pretty pumped. So basically, to get back to your question, or to directly get to your question, we imagine a world in which this piece of paper is not as important. In the future, the way that I imagine, as I mentioned, like my degree that I spent all this time getting, I don't use. It's not worth anything. What matters in my world is the experiences, is the things that the courses and whatnot that I've taken, and that can be verified on a blockchain. That can be validated that way. Eventually, we believe that that corporations and companies will be looking for specific courses, for specific experiences, and all of that will be stored and available on the blockchain. It's not going to matter about the piece of paper that you have or whatnot from a specific university. Does that make sense?
Maybe I was not clear. Let's say I need a diploma to say I'm an accountant. I have some basic skills of accountant, but I don't have a diploma, and I'm just going to buy it. And because I've got some skills, it may be okay in the company. So my point is, for me, it is good value for the money for just buying the diploma instead of studying one more year. So this will be an issue, whether the diploma is paper-based or stored on blockchain, because the fact that it is on the blockchain does not mean that it is true. It just means that everyone agrees that this is what it is. It doesn't mean that it is valid. And maybe another part of the question is, do you have any partnership with government or universities to say, oh, diplomas on the ODEM blockchain have some quality, matter, they have some value?
Yeah. The first part of your question, I'm still not grasping. I'm not sure if it's just my not understanding. I don't know. I'm not understanding. You wouldn't be able to buy a diploma in our system. You would still have to take classes that would count towards something, and so you wouldn't be able to just buy that. You would have to take education classes, which is just, I don't know. I'm not following you there.
Okay. Sorry, you're right. I forgot an essential point. Not only I am a bad guy, I want to buy a diploma, but you are a bad teacher and you are okay to say it.
Yeah. Well, that's a good question. I'll definitely have to bring that up with our team and get a better answer for you. So maybe we can follow up after the presentation, and I can get a little bit more information from you.
This happens outside the blockchain as well. You're a bad teacher and bad.
I think it's the same system as the other MOOC, like ODEM or Sarah, and they based on the same system. You have the test, you have the classroom to follow, and it's the same thing, same system.
Well, it's a system of reputation. That's what's important. Is professors develop a reputation on the system, and it's based on a number of different factors that are in our white paper. I'm happy to point you towards it. But so if you just took it from one teacher who has a low reputation, then it wouldn't be worth as much as someone else. That makes sense.
Hello. I have a question about related to the diploma, about your scope, because you offer the certification, which are recognized. But my question is, are you propose some certification recognized by state, or it's only the certification like MOOC and with some community?
Right.
It means that it's totally different than some diplomas certificate by state, and depend on the state, it's totally different, the configuration. So
yeah,
I understand that.
Sure. What we have is a entire community of educators that are like independently going to certify. So in this future that we're imagining, the value comes from the actual professor. They are the ones that are certifying that specific information. So it's the university is no longer in the picture. I don't know if that clarifies things.
I don't know. So, yeah. Do you want to go first?
Well, I just wanted to follow up on this question. So, I'm sorry, I'm the CEO of ODEM, and so it's a really good question, and it's been asked quite a few times. One of the things that, like the problems that online education had was that early on they did not go to the corporations. They did not bring the corporations together, the educators, the academics together with the to make sure that when a student are looking to get accredited, that is matched with companies, with the academics, with the government agencies, the state, to make sure that the diplomas. The diplomas, I mean, I think as somebody echoed, that can happen anywhere, on-chain, off-chain. MIT, they're putting all their diplomas now on the blockchain. So that gives it a little credibility, validation, but you still have issues with the bad actors. You are going to have your teachers, but we will weed them out. That's what blockchain is all about. That's what the community is all about. They'll get rated, and they'll be taken out. The blockchain is really going to bring in the good people. And we're going to rate them. We're going to verify them. We're going to credentialize the professors and make sure that they're actually who they say they are. We'll look in their background. We'll look at their experience. We'll get pass ratings. So, we're building a whole democratizing education. So we're going to bring that whole community and it's going to govern education on blockchain.
We have one last question, and after we'll do networking. It's actually, thank you.
I'll take the last question if I can. So I'm a teacher myself, part-time, and the rest of the time I'm in the hackathons and all the startup world. And I try to take my students into that world. And it's funny that I come across you guys because today I had an issue with my supervisor telling me don't talk about Bitcoin or blockchain in class. And everybody around the school is crazy about the fact that I'm talking about blockchain to my students. And trying to, because from the questions that I heard, and maybe you guys don't get it, in France, there is a problem with linking business and education. You can't talk about, we teach people things that I will never use, for work. And in America, you can talk business in class, it's no worries. In France, you can't do that. And also the other problem is in America, you value skills and you have diplomas and you put your skills on top of that. In France, skills do not exist. What you have in France is a diploma. That's what makes your salary at the end of the month, So my question would be, how you guys are going to teach us, sort of, the way to value skills, the way to, like you said, what gave you the opportunity to make the most of your money wasn't what you learned in class.
Right.
And so, how do you guys plan to put skills, at the same academic sort of level as the diplomas?
Well, I'll just go.
Sorry. He loves this question.
Well, I'll just go back to what I mentioned a little bit earlier. Is that you really, it's really about big data. You got to really be able to work with corporations out there, work with small companies out there, and crunch that data, because skills will change overnight. The needs for certain skills will change overnight. So you have to constantly be connected to companies. That's why it's so important. So it's so important. And then when the person is actually on and building, his profile on the platform, we'll take we'll take all these things in effect, what he wants to do, and over the 4 years, or over the period of time that he's going to get educated, and work with the corporations and the people who actually have jobs, because that's why we go to school.
You want it to be community-based.
We want it to be community-based. We want it to bring together, and you know what? It's terrible that they won't allow you to talk about Bitcoin. It's terrible. And that's, you know what, one thing, they can't stop that on the blockchain anymore. You know, that's why it's like free democracy. It's like, teach whatever you want to teach. If somebody wants to learn something about Bitcoin, well, oh, internships too.
You want to? Well, just I think to get a little closer to your question is we actually think internships are a really important part of the learning and bridging the gap between education and getting a job. So that's another piece that we're looking at wrapping into the system, is allowing students, they learn skills and then they take internships to get them into the positions they're looking for.
All right. Thank you very much all for your time. We've been really happy to have you all. Sorry for some technical difficulties. It's been a bit hard. This was my first show, so I'll be really happy to do this more often and to make it more perfect. So yeah, I hope you had what you came here for, like the information, the ideas, and please feel free to stay a bit, talk with everyone, share a name card, share this energy that you could feel in the people. Leave it. Thank you. And don't forget, subscribe to our channels, and you can find all the information on the YouTube video that will be posted. Thank you. Oui, en fait, c'est plus compliqué que ça. On sélectionne des projets et on fait en sorte, des gens peuvent rentrer en equity, on peut rentrer en equity pour les aider, etc. Mais on essaye surtout d'être des supports logistiques, techniques, financiers, légaux, autre chose.